A news reporter and her photographer were shot to death live on television this morning just a short while ago. This happened in Virginia.
Right. We warn you, this video is disturbing. Alison Parker and photographer Adam Ward of WDBJ, the CBS affiliate in Roanoke, Virginia, were shot and killed. This happened during the station's morning news show. It happened about 5:45 this morning. Parker was in the middle of an interview with the Regional Chamber of Commerce director. The shooter is still on the loose, and we are trying to work this story. It was a little shopping center in Moneta, Virginia, where this interview was taking place. As I understand, about 25 miles southeast of Roanoke.
Oh, Roanoke,
right?
exactly.
Yeah.
And in the video, we paused it where it gets graphic, but in the video, you can hear the audio we left up, and you can hear the women screaming as about 7 shots ring out. The camera proceeds to fall over, and the gunman, you can see one of the gunmen in the image wearing all black, pointing his gun directly at the women, at the reporter and the woman that she was interviewing. We've gone on the station's webpage. They are broadcasting live online currently. They have been since this happened. And the general manager of the station has also gone on to speak very publicly on the broadcast this morning several times, saying his thoughts and prayers are with the photographer's family and the reporter's family this morning.
Yeah, Marks, his name is Jeff Marks. His quote, he went on, they knew something had went wrong, and they knew there were shots fired. They had to figure out what it was because they lost their transmission, and so they figured it out, and he came on and said, we always say senseless crime. How can this individual have robbed Alison and Adam's families of their lives and loves? Alison Parker, the reporter, Adam Ward, the photographer, both dead. Another person on the scene, the Chamber of Commerce director, was shot. Don't know the exact condition she is in at this time.
Just to give you a little backup on Alison's biography, she's very active on social media. She's a cat lover. She recently did a special series on children going up for adoption and the foster care system there in Virginia. She was very active, responding to a lot of her followers and her fans on Facebook. It seems like she was very active on social media, a very personable person. You know, we see photos of the two of them, and we see them as victims of this crime, but you stop and think, moments like this force you to stop and think that, you know, this is someone with a family, with loved ones, and with coworkers who watched their lives end live on television this morning. Just a horrific tragedy that we are reporting on this morning.
Right, and we have no idea what the shooter, what the issue was, what the motivation was. Was it connected somehow to the story they were covering? Was it not? Was there some personal event? We have no idea. And again, the shooter is on the loose. Authorities are trying to obviously apprehend him as soon as possible. Right now, they do not have him. So we'll update you on the story as information becomes available. Again, 2 dead in Roanoke, near Roanoke, Virginia this morning, live on TV, a photographer and the reporter. Back with more Good Day Chicago after.
Following breaking news this morning out of Franklin County, news that has affected our WDBJ7 family very deeply. Our WDBJ7 morning crew was live this morning at Smith Mountain Lake when shots were fired around 6:45. And our general manager and WDBJ7 Vice President Jeff Marks is here. You can to tell us more about what happened.
Kim, it is my very, very sad duty to report that we have determined through the help of the police and our own employees that Alison and Adam died this morning shortly after 6:45 when the shots rang out. We do not know the motive. We do not know who the suspect or who the killer is. We do know that the Franklin County Sheriff, I just got off the phone with Franklin County Sheriff Overton. I just got off the phone before that with the state police. They are working very diligently to track down both the motive and the person responsible for this terrible crime against 2 fine journalists. I cannot tell you how much they were loved, Alison and Adam, by the WDBJ7 team. They both were in love, and we'll talk about that a little more, with other members of the team here, and our hearts are broken, and our sympathies go to the entire staff here, but also the parents and family of Adam Ward and Alison
And
Parker.
breaking news we're following out of Monetta, Virginia, a deadly shooting that happened in the middle of a television live shot. Police are searching for a person who they say shot at multiple people at the Bridgewater Plaza near Smith Mountain Lake. According to Franklin County Sheriff's Department spokesperson, the shooting occurred at 6:45 a.m. this morning. The reporter, Alison Parker, and cameraman Adam Ward were killed. According to a witness on the scene, there is a major police presence in the area. Around 30 to 40 officers have responded. Members with Bedford, Franklin County, and Virginia State Police are on the scene. Police say they continue to look for the shooter at the time, and we're hoping to get a description out to you very shortly. We have video that is going to be coming in, and this is live video of the area around the mall. We have video of what occurred around 6:45 this morning as we continue to follow this story. We will, of course, continue it, but right now, WDJB, and these are the people, this is what's going on right now, is saying that a reporter and one of their cameramen were killed this morning about 6:45.
Just into 7 News now at 6:51. Police in Virginia are looking for a gunman. They say they shot at a TV news crew while they were live on the air. The video is going around the internet right now. It's very tough to watch, but the meteorologist at this station in Virginia has said that the reporter and photographer were killed in this situation. This is a picture of the reporter and photographer involved here.
Yeah, the chief meteorologist there has been tweeting out these pictures. So these are the two on scene, and they were alive. Details just coming in. We know 3 people total were injured in this shooting. So far, it's they're not sure who the shooter was or what may have prompted some of this. Again, this is going on in Virginia. It's a CBS affiliate, WDBJ, so a local TV station there. This is in Monetta, Virginia. We pulled it up here on the map. Again, this happened just a bit ago. So it's not far. It would be a little bit east of Roanoke, Virginia, to kind of give you a better idea where that may be, a small town there.
Yeah, just a horrible situation.
It is.
Very, very sad. So we will continue to follow that story throughout the morning, and our thoughts are certainly with our friends there.
First on 5, 2 broadcast journalists in Virginia were shot dead today while live on TV this morning. A reporter and photographer in the middle of a morning live shot were shot by a man described as a disgruntled employee of the television station. News 5's Bill Riles has been following this story and joined us live in the studio with details. Bill?
Well, Devin, for any one of hundreds of local TV journalists, this would be just another day of covering news for a morning show. In this case, a live interview about tourism. WDBJ reporter Alison Parker and photographer Adam Ward, they were it was all taking place at the Bridgewater Plaza in Roanoke, Virginia. This is video of that broadcast shortly before the shooting took place. We're not showing the actual moment of the shooting when a man began firing. He fired 8 times, hitting Parker and Ward, killing them. The woman they were interviewing was also wounded. She is now in critical condition. From that point, a manhunt was underway for the suspect that we now know is called Vester Lee Flanagan. Now, Flanagan was recently fired from his reporting job at WDBJ and went by an on-air name of Bryce Williams. At last word, Flanagan had been located, had shot himself, but is still alive and in critical condition at a hospital. Flanagan tweeted out his motive minutes before he apparently turned the gun on himself. Take a look here. This is a screen capture of Flanagan's Twitter page, which he used under his on-air personality name of Bryce Williams. Flanagan says the female reporter, Alison Parker, made racist comments and an EEOC report was filed. He goes on to say the photographer, Adam Ward, went to Human Resources after working with him one time. This Twitter account would later reveal graphic and disturbing first-person videos of the shooting, and it has since been suspended. Alison Parker was 24 and a graduate of James Madison University. Adam Ward was 27, a graduate of Virginia Tech. Devin?
Thank you, Bill.
The manhunt for Vester Flanagan, also known as Bryce Williams on air, went along I-66, and that's where police say he shot himself. CBS 6's John Burkett's there tonight with more on what we've learned about the suspected shooter. John?
Bill, Vester Flanagan's car crashed into a grassy median at mile marker 17.1 on 66 East. It's a location about 200 miles from that Smith Mountain Lake shooting scene. We are in an area called Markham, Markham in Fauquier County. A trooper tells us she was sitting on the entrance ramp to 66 East off of Interstate 81 when she had typed suspect Flanagan's license plate into a license plate reader system. It pinged a hot read where he had just come by about 3 minutes earlier, so she activated her lights and sirens and took off down 66 East. The trooper says she waited for her colleagues before making the traffic stop and says Flanagan was not going above the posted speed limit. In fact, he was straddling the 2 eastbound lanes.
I walked up to the vehicle to try to clear the vehicle and see what gentleman was actually driving the vehicle.
Troopers discovered Bill and Candace Flanagan with an apparent single gunshot wound, self-inflicted. He was taken to Inova Fairfax Hospital where he was pronounced dead a couple of hours later. The former TV reporter known on air as Bryce Williams was described by his former boss at WDBJ as disgruntled, confrontational, and always seemed angry. Working for you in Fauquier County tonight, John Burkett, CBS 6 News.
Thank you, John. CBS.
Lester Holt.
Good day, everyone. Officials in Franklin County, Virginia, are about to begin a news conference about today's horrible events, the shooting deaths of 2 journalists who were doing a live report at a shopping mall in Moneta, Virginia today. We believe this is Franklin County Sheriff Bill Overton, who is beginning to address reporters. Let's listen.
I just want to make sure that through this we continue to keep our prayers and thoughts with the family of Alicia Parker and Aaron Wade. Aaron Ward. As well as the WDBJ Channel 7 News family. First and foremost, I'm at approximately 1:30 p.m. today. The suspect from this incident, this shooting, died at Fairfax Inova Hospital in Northern Virginia as a result of a self-inflicted gunshot wound. I want to express my condolences to WDBJ 7 TV for their loss this morning. We know this has been a very difficult situation to manage professionally and personally, and we sincerely appreciate their cooperation and assistance with the ongoing investigation and our search efforts. We are keeping Ms. Vicki Gardner with the Smith Mountain Lake Regional Chamber of Commerce in our thoughts and prayers as she continues to undergo treatment from injuries sustained in the shooting. I also want to thank the residents of Franklin and Bedford counties for their support and vigilance this morning as we conducted our search efforts and response in relations to this incident. The tips and information that came in from our local residents and across the Commonwealth have been extremely helpful over the course of the past 7 hours. The quick response to this investigation and resolution are due to the dedicated and quick efforts of our public safety partners with the Bedford County Sheriff's Office, the Virginia State Police, Roanoke City Police Department, Roanoke County Police Department, ATF, U.S. Marshal Service, the FBI, the Virginia Department of Emergency Management, and the Rocky Mount Police Department. I can't begin to thank those agencies and their personnel enough for their efforts. At 6:43 a.m. today, the Franklin County Sheriff's Office received a 911 call concerning shots fired at Bridgewater Plaza near Smith Mountain Lake. A WDBJ TV news crew was conducting a live interview at the plaza with Ms. Gardner when Vester Lee Flanagan II, age 41, of Roanoke, suddenly appeared and approached them and started shooting. Alison Parker, age 24, and Adam Ward, age 27, died at the scene. Both Parker and Ward were residents of Roanoke, Virginia. Let us not forget, they grew up in this area. They were part of our community. We don't want to forget that. Ms. Gardner was transported to Korean Roanoke Memorial Hospital, where she is being treated for non-life-threatening injuries. Flanagan then fled before deputies arrived on the scene. The Franklin County Sheriff's Office, with the assistance of the Virginia State Police, immediately began a search operation in the area to locate the shooting suspect. Shortly before 11, Roanoke City Police Department located Flanagan's 2009 Ford Mustang at the Roanoke Regional Airport. The Mustang has been recovered as evidence. Flanagan then left the airport in a Chevrolet Sonic that he had rented earlier in the month. During the course of the investigation, investigators were able to track the suspect as he traveled along Interstate 81, and were notified local and state law enforcement along the entire Interstate 81 corridor to assist us with a lookout for a suspect vehicle. As has been confirmed already, the Virginia State Police then located the Flanagan vehicle on Interstate 66 in Fauquier County and took him into custody. State Police will go into more detail about that shortly. We are still piecing together the timeline of events leading up to this morning's shooting. Flanagan was a former employee at WDBJ-7 and on air went by Bryce Williams. Flanagan sent a lengthy multi-page fax to a national news organization in New York about this incident, and our investigators now have a copy of it, and its use in the course of this investigation will be continuing. And that's where we are right now. We still have a lengthy investigation to conduct, and that's our focus as we move forward. I would like now to turn over the mic to Sergeant Rick Garlitz with the Virginia State Police.
Thank you, Sheriff. Shortly before 11:30 a.m. this morning, Virginia State Police Trooper Pam Neff was on patrol along Interstate 66. Her license plate reader, or LPR, alerted to a license plate on a Chevrolet Sonic traveling east on 66. She followed the vehicle a short distance as troopers responded to assist her before she activated her lights. Once that backup was there, she activated her emergency equipment and attempted to stop the vehicle. The driver of the Sonic, Vester Flanagan, also known as Bryce Williams, refused to stop and sped away from the trooper. It was only a minute or two later when the Sonic ran off the road into the median. When Trooper Neff approached the vehicle, she found Flanagan suffering from a self-inflicted gunshot wound. Flanagan was flown from the scene to Inova Fairfax Hospital, where he died at approximately 1:30 p.m. today. The Virginia State Police Bureau of Criminal Investigation Salem Field Office and our Salem Bureau of Field Operations have been and will continue to assist the Franklin County Sheriff's Office with this investigation into the shooting. Sheriff.
Thank you very much, Sergeant. I will try to entertain some questions that you may have at this point in time. We'll take a couple questions. Yes, sir.
Sheriff, how did the suspect know where the victims were, and did it look like he'd been planning for some time?
That is a question that we are looking into. Did he know before this morning that they would be located at this remote location doing a broadcast? Did he see it air this morning, as many people were watching? We're looking into that matter, trying to discover that.
Sheriff, why do you think the suspect did this? What was the motive for the shooting?
Not sure. We're looking into that. It's that he was a prior employee there. We're looking at all of those dimensions, what that may look like. But right now, there's not been a motive as per se. Many of you have gotten a lot of the correspondence, emails that have been sent out. It's obvious that there was this gentleman was disturbed in some way of the way things had transpired at some point in his life. It would appear things were spiraling out of control, but we're still looking into that.
Do you believe there was a racial component here, as has been reported?
I have no comment on that at this time.
Sheriff, did he say anything to authorities when he was arrested?
Repeat that?
Did he say anything to authorities when he was arrested?
I can't answer that at this time.
Can you tell us
talked a
when
little
he
bit,
was...
Sheriff, about the facts that were sent to ABC News. What are your impressions of it so far? What you can share?
Well, what little bit of I've been able to review at this point in time, it certainly goes to show where the gentleman's mind was the night before, or what was taking place there, that there was some forethought given as to the chain of events that would happen.
And can you tell us about the license plate reader, how you guys were able to pick them up?
Sergeant, how instrumental were those
Was
license
it
plate
technology
readers?
or did somebody just eyeball it?
Technology picked it up. The license plate reader, once a license plate is entered into the system, that reader will be able to identify that license plate when it passes. It's not state specific, so the trooper has to do an investigation after the license plate is noticed to whether that's going to be the identity of the vehicle they're looking for.
In your view, how instrumental were the license...
We've been watching a news conference in Franklin County, Virginia, as officials update us on what they know following the horrific shooting on live TV this morning that claimed the lives of two young journalists at a small station in Roanoke, Virginia. Alison Parker, her photojournalist Adam Ward, a third person, Vicki Gardner. The person being interviewed was wounded and is still undergoing treatment at a nearby hospital. The headline out of that news conference is that the shooter, Vester Lee Flanagan, according to the sheriff, is dead. He was taken to the hospital after a self-inflicted gunshot wound, but according to the sheriff, he died at 1:30 today. He's been described as a disgruntled former employee of that TV station. Let me bring in Pete Williams right now. Pete, the sheriff was a little vague on the motive, but they have a lot to work with here. Social media postings by this individual, also what may be a manifesto that's out there. What have you heard?
Right. Well, the social media postings were taken down very quickly, Lester, and at least one of the social media organizations, Facebook, says it took it down because it has a policy against allowing people to, quote unquote, celebrate their criminal acts. But it was posted very briefly. He talked about his previous history of litigation in some of his prior places of work. He mentioned specifically one of the victims suggested there was racial discrimination there. The general manager of the station has talked about that. And he also faxed, apparently, a 23-page document to ABC News, and they've described as what he says that he describes himself in this as a human powder keg. He says his anger has been building steadily, just waiting to go boom. He says he suffered racial discrimination, sexual harassment, and bullying at work, and also says that it was triggered in part by his reaction to what he called the racism of the Charleston church shooting. Lester?
Is there a chance this would be looked at in terms of a hate crime, although, of course, we know the shooter is deceased?
Right. There'll be no prosecution now. Almost impossible to say. In one way, it's a workplace shooting. In another way, obviously, very, very different.
Pete Williams. Pete, thanks very much. We will, of course, have full coverage on this horrible event when we see you a bit later for NBC Nightly News. For now, I'm Lester Holt, NBC News, New York.
I want to get straight to that stunning murder on live television in Virginia. As police search for answers, the company's remembering and honoring the victims.
Their colleagues went on the air this morning with a tribute to Alison Parker and Adam Ward, and then a moment of silence exactly 24 hours after the killing.
And we're learning new details about the suspected killer's mindset leading up to the murder. Eyewitness News reporter Tim Fleischer is live in the newsroom with the new details. Tim?
And Shirley, a community has come together in an outpouring of grief over these tragic killings. This young reporter and photographer very much a part of their community, and today they are being remembered. Returning to their morning news program, those who watched in horror the brutal killing of fellow reporter Alison Parker and photographer Adam Ward paid tribute to them with a moment of silence.
They're choking back tears and their emotions show, but they're covering the news.
Station General Manager Jeffrey Marks was joined by Alison's boyfriend, Chris Hurst, a news anchor at the station, sharing their memories on ABC's Good Morning America.
I want everyone to know that she was not only a fantastic journalist and was well on her way to a remarkable career, but she was good at everything she attempted.
Alison and photographer Adam Ward had just started their live interview early Wednesday morning when the gunman, identified as Vester Flanagan, a former disgruntled reporter at the station, opened fire, killing Alison and Adam and wounding Vicki Gardner.
It's senseless that her life and Adam's life were taken by a crazy person with a gun.
Police say Flanagan purchased the gun legally days after the recent church killings in Charleston. Flanagan also sent ABC News a lengthy fax in which he listed grievances, that he suffered from racial discrimination and bullying at work. But in the aftermath, Alison Parker's father seized on the issue of gun control.
I'm not going to rest until I see something get done here.
Memorials and prayer vigils are now taking over this community. 27-year-old Adam Ward was engaged to marry a producer at the station who was in the control room at the moment of the shooting. Parker, just 24 years old, was in love with her boyfriend, anchor Chris Hurst.
It is a pain that is very real for me now, and the station is resilient. Her family is resilient. They're strong. We'll be back, folks.
And in yet another show of support, other reporters and anchors have come from WDBJ's sister stations to help cover the news.
Action News reporter Walter Perez is live in the Action News Satellite Center with more on the story tonight. Walter.
Well, Rick, as you mentioned, the suspect is described as a 41-year-old man who is angry and difficult to work with. The victims, meanwhile, are being described as talented young people with bright futures who were murdered for absolutely no reason. 24-year-old Alison Parker and 27-year-old Adam Ward are being remembered as hardworking and smart. Two young people doing what they love to do as TV journalists.
Hey everyone, I'm Alison Parker. Photojournalist Adam Ward and I are putting the final touches on our special report.
WDBJ General Manager Jeffrey Marks says Adam was a go-to employee with a big heart, while Alison was the kind of person you'd never forget.
She was exuberant on the morning broadcast that we have. She took any assignment and ran with it. Her personality came through.
And over the past few hours, we've learned about a number of ties from this unspeakable tragedy to our region. Adam Ward's fiancée is Melissa Ott, who hails from Gibbstown, Gloucester County. She even did a TV internship in Philadelphia before getting the job in Roanoke. In a heartbreaking twist, Ott was producing the morning show at the time of the attack, so she witnessed her fiance's murder. In fact, today was her last day at WDBJ. The station posted this photo showing her celebrating plans to move out of state with Ward to begin their new lives together. Alison Parker, meanwhile, was in a relationship with co-worker Chris Hurst, who anchors WDBJ's 11 p.m. broadcast. It turns out that Hurst, who posted this touching tribute to Parker after the shooting, is from Philadelphia. The outpouring of love and support for the victims has been arriving from every corner of society, including Virginia Governor Terry McAuliffe.
It just breaks your heart, and you think of the families and so many friends and co-workers who were impacted by what happened today.
Meanwhile, it appears the gunman, Vester Flanagan, not only recorded himself committing the murders, he posted the video on Twitter and Facebook, along with a string of other comments painting himself as the victim after getting fired from the station a few years ago. Twitter has since suspended his account. Not long after the shooting, Flanagan, who went by the name Bryce Williams on the air, was spotted by police in his vehicle and a chase ensued. Flanagan's vehicle eventually went off the road and crashed. The suspect was found unresponsive with a self-inflicted gunshot wound. He was transported to a nearby hospital where he was pronounced dead a short time later. Now, before Roanoke, the suspect worked as a reporter in Tallahassee. He tried suing that station after he got fired down there. And apparently, when he was fired from WDBJ, he apparently became so belligerent, police had to escort him from the building. Reporting live from the Satellite Center, Walter Perez, Channel 6 Action.
Hey everyone, welcome to Today on a Thursday morning. Matt's on assignment, Willie's here, and I think we're all in shock about what happened and unfolded at this television station in Virginia. We have the latest on that shooting.
Yeah, tributes pouring in this morning for Alison Parker and Adam Ward, the reporter and cameraman who were shot and killed while reporting live on the air. Their guest at the time, Vicki Gardner, who also was shot, is recovering in the hospital after undergoing emergency surgery. We will talk to her husband in just a few minutes.
We are also learning more this morning about the gunman, a self-described human powder keg waiting to explode, who claimed the Charleston church shooting was his tipping point. We've got it all covered this morning. We'll talk to the station's general manager in a moment, but let us begin with NBC's Stephanie Gosk in Roanoke. Stephanie, good morning to you.
Good morning, Savannah. Well, WDBJ was back on the air live this morning covering a story about themselves and at times holding back tears. Overnight, there were candlelight vigils here and at local churches. You know, this is a tight-knit newsroom, and Adam Ward and Alison Parker grew up here in Virginia and were beloved, and now their community and their colleagues are heartbroken.
We come to you this morning with very heavy hearts. Two of our own were shot and killed during a live shot yesterday morning.
A surreal morning of remembrance on WDBJ, just 24 hours after two of their colleagues and friends were killed live on their air.
Through real estate, tourism.
The horrific events began Wednesday morning at 6:45 a.m. when Vester Lee Flanagan approached reporter Alison Parker and cameraman Adam Ward as they were live on air.
We want the people that come here to say.
Flanagan, a former station colleague of Parker and Ward, opened fire, killing them both and wounding their guest, Vicki Gardner. As Ward lay dying, his camera captured this image of Flanagan.
Double homicide out of Franklin County.
As the police pursued the shooter,
Subject is a black male. Suspect is believed to be armed and dangerous. Use caution.
he began live tweeting, first citing grievances he had with Parker and Ward, then posting two graphic videos of the shooting itself that Flanagan took as he approached and killed his victims. We're only showing this image from them. A brief high-speed pursuit of Flanagan followed, police finding him in his wrecked car, severely wounded from a self-inflicted gunshot.
Get back.
As he was airlifted to a hospital where he later died, WDBJ went back on the air at noon for a gut-wrenching broadcast.
We have determined, through the help of the police and our own employees, that Allison and Adam died this morning shortly after 6:45 when the shots rang out.
In a 23-page document faxed to ABC News in New York just after the shootings, a man claiming to be Flanagan said he had been discriminated against for being gay and was motivated by June's shooting at a historic black church in Charleston. Why did I do it? I put down a deposit for a gun on June 19th. The church shooting in Charleston happened on June 17th. I've been a human powder keg for a while, he wrote, just waiting to go boom. As the day's surreal and excruciating events settled in, those closest to the victims began to mourn them, including Parker's boyfriend, WDBJ anchor Chris Hurst, who showed us their photo album outside the apartment the couple had just moved into together.
I'll carry it with me for the rest of my life. She made these past 9 months that I shared with her the best time of my life.
Her father spoke with Megan Kelly late Wednesday night.
She was extremely happy, and she loved this guy with all her heart, and that's the toughest thing for me, that everybody that she touched loved her, and she loved everybody back.
There's so many details about this story that put a point on the tragedy. Adam Ward was engaged to the morning producer here, Melissa Ott, and last night one of the anchors at the station tweeted that yesterday her wedding dress arrived in the mail. Savannah, Willie, back to you guys.
It's just unthinkable. Stephanie, thank you so
New
much.
details about the stunning murder on live TV. Virginia's governor just visited the station, WDBJ. Meanwhile, the medical examiner's office says the reporter and photographer who were killed both suffered gunshot wounds to the head. And we are now hearing exclusive details from the only survivor of the attack, Vicki Gardner. ABC's Elizabeth Herr has the details.
The visible traces of that horrific morning still haunting a Virginia community, now gone. New wooden planking on the Bridgewater Plaza deck is up as businesses there are reopening today. And now for the first time, an eyewitness account of the deadly early on-air shooting from the sole survivor of the attack, Vicki Gardner, talking to her husband who spoke to ABC News.
The surgeon told me that a couple of centimeters and she wouldn't be walking and she wouldn't be alive.
The Chamber of Commerce director was being interviewed on live TV by reporter Alison Parker and her photographer Adam Ward when all three were caught off guard and gunned down by a former station reporter.
Did she get a feeling about who was the target?
Well, Allison obviously was the initial target.
Vicki told her husband Allison was shot first, then Ward. When Vicki started to run, the gunman began firing at her.
He shot 3 times at my wife, and she was trying to dodge everything. He missed twice, and then she dove to the ground.
According to Vicki, the shooter, now identified as former reporter Vester Flanagan, tried to keep shooting her, but his gun didn't work, so he took off. Search warrants revealing more evidence of an elaborate plan. In his getaway car, police found a Glock pistol, 6 magazines of ammo, 3 license plates, a wig, shawl, and a to-do list. Flanagan later shot and killed himself while on the run from troopers. As for Vicki, she is still in the hospital but is expected to make a full recovery. Elizabeth Herr, ABC News, Roanoke, Virginia.
Disgruntled former reporter who killed a TV reporter and cameraman had no confrontations with his former colleagues when he saw them around town in 2 years after he was fired from the station. Now, that's according to the station's general manager. This is today's cover of the Roanoke Times. State of shock. People still in disbelief. ABC's Elizabeth Herr has more from Moneta, Virginia.
Tanya and Ravi, in a show of solidarity, the entire news team came out this afternoon and stood behind the station's general manager. The GM telling us while their hearts are heavy, they are grateful for the overwhelming support from the community. Stunned but staying strong. This is how the community is showing the Virginia station WDBJ they are not alone.
I have 819 emails. I have all my voicemail boxes are full, and it's all with people reaching out.
The news team observing a moment of silence on the morning news, the exact time they lost their colleagues, reporter Alison Parker and cameraman Adam Ward, just 24 hours earlier on live TV.
The whole thing just crushes my soul.
Alison's father, heartbroken with the horrific loss just beginning to hit him.
We used to also go kayaking. I just looked down the river and realized that, I'm sorry that she's not going to be there with me.
ABC News is not showing the video of the fatal shooting recorded and posted on social media by the shooter, former on-air reporter Bryce Williams, whose real name is Vester Flanagan, fired from WDBJ 2 years ago. Police continue to search his apartment for answers, but in a rambling suicide note faxed to ABC News, he claims he was the victim of mistreatment at work because he was a gay black man. And in response to those allegations, the general manager here told us that all claims of mistreatment were investigated and determined to be unfounded. Flanagan, in the meantime, shot and killed himself following a police chase. The third shooting victim remains in the hospital in good condition. In Roanoke, Virginia, I'm Elizabeth Herr for ABC 7 Eyewitness News. Tanya and Ravi.
And he was full of life. That's how friends and family today remembered TV photographer Adam Ward. Hundreds gathering in Roanoke, Virginia to say goodbye to this journalist who, with reporter Alison Parker, were killed last week on live television. ABC News reporter Marcy Gonzalez here now with the story. Marcy.
Yeah, Bill, an emotional service, but one with a lot of laughs, too. About 500 people gathered today at a church just a few miles from the TV station where Ward and Parker worked, sharing stories about a guy loved ones say was just about impossible to dislike.
Cameras kept at a distance as friends and family members said goodbye to Adam Ward. Mourners arriving here and to yesterday's viewing wearing the colors of his alma maters, Virginia Tech and Salem High School. Teams he spent his short life cheering on, now showing their love for him at his funeral and on the field.
Just a little bit we can do just to say we love you and we're sorry as parents.
The 27-year-old cameraman was killed along with reporter Alison Parker during a live report last week on Roanoke TV station WDBJ. The duo, known for their warm, upbeat personalities, were shot to death by a former co-worker who later committed suicide. Friends refusing to focus on the violent way their lives ended, instead sharing how they were lived.
The way that he has been described as an adult is the way he was as a child. He was vivacious, he was helpful, he was kind.
As funeral arrangements for Alison are still being made, the tributes for both continue. The Virginia Tech football team planning to honor Alison and Adam at their season opener next week, wearing these stickers on their helmets and holding a moment of silence before kickoff.
And Virginia Tech has also started a scholarship in Adam's name. Meanwhile, the sole survivor of last week's shooting, Vicki Gardner, is still in a hospital recovering.
Now, and only on the record, you will hear from Vicki Gardner. Vicki was the sole survivor when a gunman opened fire on live television. That gunman murdering TV reporter Alison Parker and her photographer Adam Ward.
It was just rapid fire. I just don't know.
A reporter and her cameraman were murdered on live TV.
These two reporters were only doing their job, and they didn't even and could not even see it coming.
movement, and then gunfire. Lots and lots of gunfire.
It all happened live on TV.
He had a lot of anger. He had a lot of mental issues.
My heart just goes out to Alison and Adam, and they're so young. They, why save me and take them?
The whole nation is mourning tonight.
Obviously, there's a purpose, and by golly, I will fulfill it.
Gardner watched that horrifying scene as both the WDBJ reporter and photographer were murdered right next to her. But she was not the only one who watched the murder. It was broadcast live on television. Vicki remembers everything and is telling her story for the first time.
We were lined up and we were talking and what are we going to do and just our usual fun conversation. And Adam's all set up in front of me and Alison was alongside of me. And we saw a motion, and I don't want to go so much into this because it's already been said over and over and over again, but we did see a motion that seemed a little unusual. We couldn't quite place it. Was it somebody looking for something? Was it somebody that maybe was here for maintenance that wanted to ask a question? And my thought was, is he going to ask a question while we're talking on air? I just didn't know.
You noticed him while you were live. That was the first time you noticed him.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That was it.
And just where was he when you first noticed him? Was he straight ahead from you, or?
I was again. He was just kind of coming down the walkway next to the rail, and I just saw movement. You were paying attention to the camera, and you have the peripheral, and that's what I saw. Sort of boxy. I can't describe it. Obviously, he was in full armor, so that may explain the boxy. And then.
So what did you see next then?
He basically came up behind. We're talking, and again, it was a tiny bit of a distraction, probably more than I would even recognize. But then it was just very, very fast, and I saw movement, and then gunfire, lots and lots of gunfire, and from that point, it was very chaotic. I realized that Adam was down in front of me and Alison was not to the side of me any longer. And so I'm really, and I won't say face to face because I can't say that I was looking at him. I was not trying to make eye contact. And so the only thing I could think of is play dead. And so as the fire was happening, he doesn't know who he's hitting or who he is not hitting, and I don't think. And I just fell to the ground as though I had been hit and went into fetal position because I felt as though he was going to shoot me in the head. And so I needed to hide that. So if he thought he already had, but he did come back up and shot me in the back, and which I thought went through my spine. And thankfully, again, I have so many angels around me or something that it didn't happen that way. But and then it was very quiet. It was just very quiet. I don't know whether he tried to fire off a couple more rounds. I was just concentrating on being so still that he wouldn't shoot me again. And then it was quiet. And it was early in the morning, and there really wasn't anyone around, not understanding quite. This had happened live. It didn't register for me. I didn't know how badly I was bleeding, but I was on a deck, and so, obviously blood would go down rather than pool on a deck. There's a lot of unknowns. It seemed like a very, very long time, which it wasn't, of laying there and looking over and trying to assess the situation, and then I heard the police come in, and two people came in with their guns, still not knowing where the shooter was, not trying to secure the area, trying to assess our situation of the three people laying there, and realizing that I was alive, they said, "Can you get up?" And didn't know I could or couldn't, but we got up and they tried to, while securing, while holding their guns, while looking, while two men doing all of this and trying to help me to safety. and went into a truck. And then it was so that I would be somewhat secure while they're risking their lives out there. And then the emergency vehicle came, and all was well.
Did the killer say anything, or did he just came up silently?
Very silent, very silent, very. That's all. That's all. It was just, you know, a unanticipated, and you can review it and probably talk it over 18 times, and each time it will be the thought that goes through, you know, did I read this well? Thankfully, I felt like I read it well enough that I dropped, because had I continued to stand there, I would not be here talking to you.
We don't get much time to think about that stuff.
No, you really don't. And again, you know, a lot of thoughts. My heart just goes out to Alison and Adam, and they're so young. They, you know, why save me and take them? But obviously there's a purpose, and by golly, I will fulfill it.
So Adam was shot first or second?
I believe first. It was, again, when you're looking at, and it was just rapid fire, all in this direction. It wasn't down. It was just right face wise. How he missed me, I just don't know.
But if you drop down, is it he does face level
I think
of the other two?
Everybody was gone when I dropped.
And then he shot you.
He came back, I believe, came back by me and shot me.
So as sort of an afterthought.
Sort of, well, just in case, you know.
And said nothing.
Nothing.
Never a word, not a scream.
No. So it was again tragic. There's. We have a long way to go on understanding what would possess somebody to have that much anger.
Any idea or concept of how long you were lying there next to Adam and Alison before anyone else showed up?
That is the million-dollar question. I think it was 5 minutes. I don't know, because the television station called into 911, and they immediately picked that up. They're just right up the street, and so they were there quickly. It seemed forever. But it probably wasn't.
But even 5 minutes is forever in a situation like that.
It is forever when
a
you don't
minute.
know how badly you're bleeding, and you don't know the situation of the two people next to you. Is there something that can be done for them?
And you don't know if he's coming back.
And you don't know if he's coming back, and you don't know if he's around the corner, and it's terror. That's all.
Have you seen that video? I mean, you've seen the video?
Mm-hmm.
Why? Just curious?
So that when we have our interview, I would be able to piece together in my mind, so that I can put my mind at peace, that I'm not conjuring up something that wasn't. You might just as well, you know, you can't take this and bury it. You've got to, there'll be a long path.
See, I watched that video, and I have to confess, I've watched it a couple times, and it's just, to me, it's the most horrible.
It is.
You know, it's like, videotaping a double homicide and a shooting.
That's exactly right. Yep. And the helplessness of it.
What went through your mind as you watched it?
I just watched it.
Just watched it?
I just watched it. I took it in.
Did it feel real?
Nope.
Felt like you're watching somebody else?
No. It just felt like, you know, sometimes you can just put a blank screen in front of things, that you can put a veil over something. I put a veil over it, and needed to watch it, and I'll probably, you know, over the course of time, over the course of healing, who knows what, you know, what your mind's going to do. Minds are just, you know, able to take you in any direction that you. So let's just get the facts. Let's do it right. Let's move from there.
Is it a good thing that he killed himself, the killer, so that there's no trial and continuing sort of drama on this? Is that a good thing?
I don't know. He did what he did. It certainly does take an awful lot of the drama out of it, doesn't it? It's over. That part of it. There's a lot of things to piece together. If he was here, it'd be a completely different scenario, but I can't paint that picture. I don't know what that picture would be. I don't think it'd be any more pleasant.
When the whole thing was sort of going down, was it with fear grip you, this whole thing, or did it just happen too fast, the shooting? I mean, what
It happened fast. I was very, very surprised of one thing. And, I'll tell you what it was, because it still surprises me, is that I was laying down. I realized it was quiet and everybody was down, and I didn't know where he was. I felt as though the next shot, I knew the next shot he was just going to shoot me in the head, because that was what he was doing. And it didn't fire or whatever. He shot me in the back, and I was waiting for him to shoot me in the head. When he shot me in the back, I said, I'm going to be paralyzed, darn. And then I waited, and then I said, and it goes real quick. They say, oh, your mind, world goes in front of you. And it did real fast, and I said, I'm ready. I'm ready. So I was really very much at ease had it happen. I felt, I didn't want it. No. But I wasn't in like an, oh my gosh. It just went through, and I said, I've had a good life. And that was that. And then it didn't, and so I'm happy. Happy to be here.
The day of the attack, you were standing with Alison, what was supposed to be her last live shot of the day. Did you see the attacker approaching, coming up to you in the cameraman's position?
I did. Of course, who would have ever guessed in a million years what was about to happen?
You didn't think he was threatening necessarily. He just came out from in your peripheral vision.
It was definitely peripheral vision. I was, again, we were speaking live, and as he approached, I could see it, and I was a little distracted, but I was not concerned. And when he opened fire, it was still very difficult to even understand, to comprehend what was happening. It was something that one does not expect to happen, and your mind very quickly goes into a lot of scenarios. But it was very horrific.
Initially, he didn't shoot at you. He shot at the cameraman, Adam. He shot at the reporter, Alison. Alison fled, and he chased Alison. And did you think the threat for you was over?
No. I dropped to the ground, and I had not been hit. I just laid very still, and he did come back, and he did shoot me. It is my mental thought that he had run out of bullets. I think that he would have continued to shoot, but there was just one load of bullets, but I didn't hear him leave, and so there was much concern there.
Maybe that's what people misunderstand when they hear about these stories, that it all happens so quickly that you can't process or understand or do anything about it.
And that's exactly right. As I relive this in my mind, was there anything that I could have done that would have made a difference? And absolutely not. I had to just lay very still, and I thought that perhaps I'm not going to be here by the time help does arrive.
You said something in an interview after the attack that surprised me. You said you had watched the live broadcast to see what actually was televised. Why did you decide to watch it?
Your mind can play a lot of tricks. And I want, my memory, I want to make sure that my memory matches reality. And you can convince yourself of a lot of things, but seeing it and just having a clearer understanding of exactly what transpired. And so, yeah, it was horrific to watch, obviously, but it gave me great insight.